So I was watching a Mandalorian episode recently, and by the time you see this episode, that Mandalorian episode will have been long gone because I'm pre-recording these videos. But this Mandalorian episode is the one that I thought that Boba Fett was going to be coming back, and I got really excited, but it turns out really quickly that he wasn't. But then I started thinking, well, let's say that Boba Fett's still alive. How old would he be in The Mandalorian? In fact, how old are all the clones? So, if that's something that you're interested in, stick around to find out on today's episode of Star Wars Nerds and Geeks. Well, let's not keep you waiting. How old is Boba Fett in The Mandalorian? Well, we're going to use this special timeline. It's not that special, but don't tell the timeline that, okay? Okay, thanks. So we're going to use this special timeline to figure out how old Boba Fett is in The Mandalorian. So, Boba Fett was created around the time of Episode 1 in 32 BBY. And so he was cloned from his father, Jango Fett, which is kind of interesting because it makes Jango Fett both his father, but also his brother, and also just himself. It's a really weird relationship going on right there. Anyways, Jango Fett specifically requested that Boba Fett be created for him to be his son, and he requested that Boba Fett have nothing changed to him. So, his Boba Fett's growth cycle wouldn't be increased like it was for some other clones. So Boba Fett's just a normal clone created in 32 BBY at the time of Episode 1. When Episode 2 rolls around and Obi-Wan Kenobi meets them, this is now 22 BBY, so Boba Fett is 10 years old. This is when he suffers the trauma of his dad dying at 10 years old. And then during the Clone Wars, he ages from 10 all the way up to 13 years old. I know, very old, right? So probably around the time of 12, maybe 13, Boba Fett's now a fully grown, or not a fully grown, he's a bounty hunter that is a leader of all these bounty hunters. So if you watch the Clone Wars and you see Boba Fett, he's really young in those episodes. Episode 3 rolls around. We don't see Boba Fett in this, but Episode 3 is in 19 BBY, so he would be 13 in this movie. Moving on, I'm going to talk about Solo really quickly because Han Solo and Boba Fett kind of have a thing going on, although that doesn't really happen until Episode 5, but just cause. And Solo happens, the majority of it happens in 10 BBY, meaning that Boba Fett would be 22 in this movie. So, Boba Fett is old enough now he's actually an adult by the time Solo rolls around. Then moving on, Episode 4, happens in 0 BBY or 0 ABY, however you want to say it. So that is 32 years after Episode 1, meaning that Boba Fett is now 32 years old. Then we move over to Episode 5, and Episode 5, this is the very first time we see Boba Fett, this is the very first time Boba Fett was ever introduced. And in Episode 5, which happens in 3 ABY, Boba Fett is 35 years old. So now we have a 35-year-old in Episode 5 as a bounty hunter. Episode 6 rolls around, and that's only a year later for ABY, and at this point he is 36 years old. And this is when Boba Fett apparently died at 36 years old. However, there are theories that Boba Fett can still be alive, and maybe they are true. I haven't really followed up with those theories, so there is a chance that those theories are actually true and accurate. But anyways, if they were true and accurate, then by the time The Mandalorian comes around if we were to see Boba Fett, Mandalorian happens in 7 ABY, meaning that Boba Fett would be 39 going on 40. So, he's actually not that old. I was honestly thinking that Boba Fett was going to be pretty old, but he is not, which is really interesting. I mean, 40 is kind of getting there, but it's not that old. But wait, there's more. I want to talk about some other ages. So, I want to talk about the other clones. How old are the other clones? Well, you might be thinking, well, aren't they also going to be 39 going on 40 in The Mandalorian? No. In The Mandalorian, that was 39 years from the day that they were born, but that's not actually how old they are. What? So weird, huh? Well, let's dive into that. So, next I wanted to talk about the Kaminoans and their cloning procedures. I mean, they were kind of a little sketchy, but anyways, I wanted to say that... Did you hear that? Anyways, about the Kaminoans. Hello? I don't think anyone's there. Okay, I'm coming. Only be a sec. Hello?
He didn't even see me coming. In and out, stealthy like a ninja. But first, it is I, Darth Jade, once more. You failed to give me a part in your Rule of Two video, so now I will take over this video. Take that, NG. I respect the Kaminoans. They are very vicious and vile creatures who will stop at nothing to get a profit. They don't care about life or ethics or morals. They only care about the money. And I can respect that, for even though I do not like the money, I do not care for morals or ethics either, and I will stop at nothing to get what I want. For example, today I recently knocked out NG to take over the rest of his video. But anyways, these Kaminoans, for money, they don't care about these morals or ethics. So they realize they need to get the Republic really good troopers, and they need them to be old enough to fight. But they only have 10 years. So what these crafty Kaminoans do is they decide to accelerate the growth of the clones. And so the 10-year period, the clones grew to 20 years old. And so now they are old enough to fight in the war. That means that these clones, though physically 20, are mentally 10 years old, which is a little crazy if you ask me. But I still respect the Kaminoans because they stop at nothing. And so now we know that the clones' growth is double. So therefore, they are aging twice as fast. So therefore, we can figure out how old they are in each of the movies. They were born in episode 1 in 32 BBY. And by the time of episode 2 in 22 BBY, in that 10-year period, they grew to 20 years old. Then the Clone Wars, which stretched from 22 BBY to 19 BBY. They went from 20 to 26 years old at the end of the Clone Wars. Then we see them again in Rebels, which stretches from 5 BBY to 1 BBY, which means that they started off in that distance of 27 years. They grew to 54 at the beginning of Rebels. They were 54 years old at the beginning of Rebels. And by the time the end of Rebels come, they are 62 years old. So these clones are very, very old. And then we know that the clones served at least some clones served at the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY. That was 36 years after their birth, meaning that these clones that served in the Battle of Endor are 72 years old, which is very, very impressive, I must admit. They have a hearty soul. I could use some of them in my wars. And then, if these clones were still alive, still fighting, and they make it to the Mandalorian in 7 ABY, 39 years after they were born, they would be 78 years old. They are so old, but they are still fighting. I really respect them clones. They are a pain to fight against, but they have a true soldier's heart. One thing before I leave you. Episode 1, as we know, happened in 32 BBY. And then, if you scroll all the way over on this totally not special timeline, you will see that The Force Awakens happens in 34 ABY. And if you can do the math, you will realize that Star Wars, between Episode 1 and Episode 7, takes place over 66 years. Coincidence? I think not. Uh-oh. I hear Mr. Nerds and Geeks starting to wake up. I better get out of here before he sees me, for otherwise he will not post this video. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, all you pathetic pupils out there. Until next time, this is Darth Jade. Goodbye.
Whoa. Whoa, my head hurts. I think someone hit me and knocked me out. I didn't see what it was, though. They just came out of nowhere. I was opening the door and then bam, I was on the floor. Whew. Did you guys see who it was? No? Hope we figure that mystery out. I can't continue. I'm just gonna have to end the episode here. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Star Wars Nerds and Geeks signing off. See you all next time.